Folks, I'm with my good friend Leigh Steinberg. Leigh, great to see you. And I want to start off on a somber note with the passing of Prince, who was an icon. And what are your thoughts about Prince? I know that,
It continues a trend where so many of our most beloved entertainers end up passing before their time. So I think it's sad. He was a creative genius and will be remembered forever because his music will live on. And Zane, I want to congratulate you. I know this is your 10th year anniversary on YouTube.
Yes.
And you do such outstanding work, so here's to you.
Thank you, and I couldn't have done it without you. And I want to thank you for, not getting emotional, just something in my eye. It was an emotional day, though. But I want to thank you, Leigh, very much for all that you've done and our relationship going back to 1998, and your generosity in time, including today. It means a lot to me in words I can't describe. So I want to thank you very, very much. So let's talk about Paxton Lynch signing an incredible Nike deal. I know there are elements you can't discuss, but tell us what you can tell us about it.
He's had an extraordinary offseason in respect to signing deals. So we started with Panini, which now is the exclusive trading card of the NFL, and he signed a monster deal with Panini. A smaller one with Wingstop, and then he had grown up a Nike fan his entire life. So, and then at Memphis they played using Nike shoes and equipment. So he was delighted to be the first player in this year's draft to make a deal with them. As you know, role modeling and athletes making a difference is critically important to us, and it's part of how Paxton and I came together. So as part of the deal, he's going to donate product to first of all, to his high school team, which will put them in new cleats, and second of all, to a children's home, shirts and exercise suits and a whole variety of things to make them the best dressed young people in Florida.
Can you talk about how this came about from the perspective of that? I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, because you basically created the super sports agent business, to be blunt. But normally an athlete signs with Nike after they've been drafted. Is this a first? It's got to be.
There have been players who've done deals like this before, but he was the first one this year. And part of it is that Nike has such magnificent ability to propel athletes in a public way. So their production values, the cleverness of their campaigns is really something amazing. So the real value of it as you go down the line is the fact that if you think about it, maybe 20% of the people in this country follow NBA basketball, and yet 100% know Michael Jordan. And they know him, first of all, from the terrific job that Nike did. So we'll do these couple deals, the aggregate's worth 7 figures, and then we'll stop. Because it's really important for a young quarterback who's facing the most challenging year. Defenses are harder to read. The players move differently because they're better. The speed of the game is really fast. So the important key after this is to end this endorsement cycle and have him go prove himself to his owner, to his general manager, his coach, and the players around him that he's serious about football. So if things work well his first year, we'll begin again to talk marketing, but that's where we are.
Can you talk about the trades that happened that arguably looked great for you and your organization? Specifically, first, the Rams trade with the Titans, bringing the Rams up to number 1.
Start with the premise that this has become a quarterback-centric game. And having a franchise quarterback, someone that a team can build around for the next 10 to 12 years, win because of rather than with, and importantly, who can elevate his level of play in critical situations to take a team through the playoffs to the Super Bowl. Very difficult position to fill and critically important. So when you see a team give up a large group of draft picks to move up in position, they're moving for the quarterback. So I would assume that at the first position, the Rams take Jared Goff. I'm a big Cal fan and alum, so
ditto. Go Bears.
So go Bears and all the best to him. And then I think that Philadelphia moved up in the second position, probably to take whoever the Rams didn't take, and so that'll probably be Carson Wentz. With those two quarterbacks off the board, it sets up an interesting scenario because reasoning goes that if a team is high in the draft and has a quarterback need, that this is the time to go ahead and pick the quarterback because the hope is the team will never be that high in draft order again. So with Paxton Lynch, you've got someone who's 6'7", got a highly elevated point of view, very athletic. You're going to think of Cam Newton, Ben Roethlisberger, big and strong, the new vogue of quarterbacks. Faith-based family, great character, tremendous leadership ability. And so I think saying he has the highest upside of any quarterback in the draft because of the way the season ended where the coach left and left them trying to somehow put a game plan together for the bowl game. It did not go well. That was the first thing that happened in scouting. That was not a positive. And his scouting has been backloaded. So April 6th was Pro Scouting Day at Memphis, latest date of anyone, and then he's had the 11-12 meetings with teams since then. So you can see teams bracketed into two categories. First of all, teams that have a primary need at quarterback want to replace their starter. And second, and those would be teams like Cleveland, San Francisco, potentially the New York Jets. And then you have teams with a secondary need, which is not wanting there to be a gap between a talented starter like Tony Romo or Drew Brees to occur. So I would put Denver in either category, but those are teams like the Dallas Cowboys, the New Orleans Saints, and the San Diego Chargers. So we're in the last phase of scouting, and in the next 5 or 6 days prior to next Thursday, I assume we'll be getting more real-time information about who's going to move. But I think the trades are probably not done yet because teams are sitting, having done a draft scenario on a computer over and over and over again, which will tell them exactly who'd be available when their pick comes up. If the player that they really covet is not going to be available, they contemplate trading up and exchanging positions. If the player that they truly want is someone they think will go later, then they move down and aggregate a series of draft choices. So the deck is reshuffled, if you will, and it opens up a whole new world of possibilities for Paxton Lynch.
I'm curious, it seemed to me, watching Paxton's pro day, that there were two phases to his early career, before and after. And I say after because it put him arguably on a national stage, eyes are focused on him, and he did an incredible job. How had things changed after that?
It was the first time the teams really got a chance to see him throw. He couldn't play in the All-Star game because he's a junior, and he couldn't really show what he could do at the combine. It's 3 throws, and then you go back in line, and then it's 3 throws. This gave him a chance for 40 minutes to show every single throw that a pro quarterback would ever have to make, and to show his footwork. We had worked really hard on the training part of it because he comes out of a spread offense. Now that's true for most quarterbacks at the college level, but now they have to adjust to going into a pro offense, which means mastering a 3, 5, and 7 step drop. The difference between his footwork at the combine, and then about 6 weeks later at his pro scouting day was dramatic. People were very pleased. He's so athletic. He can move nimbly like a much smaller person. So a reset occurred on the pro scouting day, and there was a heavy wind. He went ahead and was able to throw 65, 70 yards into the wind for what would have been a touchdown pass, and he got teams excited. And so now you have two things that would happen after that. Number one, teams came to campus and were impressed, and number two, he did a series of visits to franchises and was impressed. Actually, today he's doing what they call ESPN's car wash. So he's the first draftee to do it. So you fly to Bristol and then all day do fundamentally every single show that ESPN has on television and a number of them on radio.
Wow.
So he's about to splash out nationally in a big time way.
I had this vision of him walking through a car wash in Bristol.
It'd be a big car wash.
Wow. How do you... I'm asking this question. It has to do with... There's a lot of media, as you know, including me and everyone else. But what, as a person who had the pleasure of meeting with and interviewing Bill Walsh, among others, bothers me and Steve Mariucci, is that someone will say, like for Paxton, well, he played in a one-read offense. What bothers me, Leigh, is that for anyone who's actually wrote their own playbook and designed plays, like John Gruden even asked me to give him a play, okay? Every play has one read, but people confuse reads with progressions, like, right? And can you, is there something that we can do about correcting these errors in how the media talks about the game of football? Because they impact players, you know?
Probably not. You probably have two groups of fans, those that have played the game, been part of it, have an appreciation for technical X's and O's, and then you have a more general fan who just wants to follow the action. So the truth is, when they tell you that they're playing a nickel defense or they're too deep or type 2 coverage, most of the fans have no idea what they're talking about. And so that's done to a very narrow audience. But pro football continues to be the most dominant sport in America by 2-1. It's the most popular television show. Prime time, 45 million people play fantasy football, so they're doing something right.
And before we close, and I know you got a time limit, can we talk about your other clients? I know you've got Daniel Lasco and others, and
Sure.
how they're going to be coming up in the draft.
So Daniel Lasco from Cal was someone that had a very dramatic junior year and then faced a senior year filled with nagging injuries. So he went off the charts and off the radar to a certain extent. I can't think of a player who's helped himself more in the scouting process than Daniel Lasco. He was spectacular at the All-Star game he played in, the East-West. He was the most valuable player. Then he comes on to the Combine, and his athleticism blew people away. So he set records for different drills that he was in and was spectacular. Now all of a sudden people take a second look and say, wow, he's got a great first step. He's never down back. He's got sweet hands. He's got the ability to break a play. He's a good blocker. And he can play special teams. And he's like a human dynamo on that. So all of a sudden, someone that people were telling me wasn't even going to get drafted has been moving dramatically up, and we'll see how high next Thursday. We have Danny Vitale from Northwestern, who's very interesting because he's a great combination of huge size and speed and athleticism, and can play at the fullback position, at the running back position, can play as a slot, could line up as a tight end. Again, a terrific special teams player. Call him a robo-back because he's got so many functionalities, and he's going to do just fine. We have a tight end named Stephen Shoy from Vanderbilt. who's getting a lot of looks, and I think will get drafted in a reasonable position. And then we have Jonathan Woodard, who's going to be a steal for some team. He's from Central Arkansas. He's a sack machine and has done quite well in scouting. So all in all, I'm very pleased. This whole second season of scouting, Zenny, has become so elaborate that players go off to train and they work on nutrition and then strength and their position. Then some of them play in all-star games, which are heavily scouted during the week. Then they go off to a combine where they have interviews with teams and 5 or 6 physical drills that distinguish them. Then when that's over, pro scouting day back on the college campus where they can do the same thing over again. And now teams are allowed 30 players who they can invite to come to their franchise and spend the day with. They can't work them out. So scouting has now cut off, and it cuts off a week prior to the draft. And now teams are back in their war rooms looking at their own draft boards, deciding who they'll take.
This is exciting stuff, and I know that you got a schedule, so Leigh, I'm going to let you go. And,
my pleasure.
And thank you so very much. And you're going to be in Orlando, right?
I'm going to be in Deltona Beach, Florida. Mm-hmm. Paxton made the decision, although he's invited, not to go to the draft. Now, when you're sitting there at the draft, there are 25, 30 players all crowded together in the tables with a couple people with them. And draft time is not real time, Zenny. It's water torture time.
Right.
And every second seems like a minute, every minute seems like an hour, eternity, direct. So what I would tell you is that he made a decision to stay with his extended family, his friends, his teammates, because he can have all of them there. And in keeping with the general class we're known for, it'll be at a bowling alley in Deltona, and it will be a joyous festival.
Sounds like fun. Hey, Leigh, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take it easy.
You too.
Bye-bye.
See you.